Real quick, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, Greenlight.ai. We all know how important compliance is, and Greenlight.ai is the leader for compliance and EOR services, especially for talent platforms. You're going to hear about them later, but thank you to Greenlight. All right. Well, listeners, this is probably my most excited episode yet. I'll give you a little context.
Not the other 221 episodes and those people.
Or the ones where you've interviewed me in the past. Sure.
Yeah.
Liver all around.
Not even close.
To be honest with you, wait a minute. Whoa. We haven't been honest up till now?
Yeah, right.
Is that what we're talking about?
All right. Now the listeners know what it's like in my own company, getting grilled. You know, it's pretty great.
It's parsing words. That's what we do.
But no, so we have a massive announcement for all of y'all, and it's all because of you, Mr. William. And so what this episode is going to be is literally just us announcing what's next for Human Cloud and the pod and Work Defined, and literally just having you listeners get an inside scoop on what it was up until now, what it will be in the future, and we're pumped. So listen, how about Tony William? You want me to give a little bit of context on why we built this podcast at first and then get into it?
Yeah.
Tony, you cool with that?
So, what do you want me to do?
Just like yes.
Stand on your head.
I didn't hear whatever. You're like, Tony, do you want to have a podcast?
Well, the beauty is, Tony, you're wearing a sweatshirt and I'm wearing a button down. So I changed for you.
And a Human Cloud t-shirt. And
a Human Cloud t-shirt. That I always
on brand.
Yeah,
that I always have. But listen, let me kick into the podcast. So the whole reason we started this about 5 years ago is that, Tony, you and I in 2018 fell in love with getting enterprises to actually change, and to get them to change through, talent. We'll just call them talent models that made more sense. From the first day of the podcast, it was literally a realization that conversations usually moved the needle more than anything else. And it was a realization that I could get people like you, Tony, to come on the podcast, say stuff for an hour that usually would cost $4,000 an hour, and just democratize it to the public. And what it's become over the past 5 years is we just get the coolest people. We get the coolest founders. We get the coolest business executives. And it's a really simple premise. The world needs to become more flexible. How in the world are we going to do it? And so that's what the inception of the pod was. That's what we've always wanted to be. And my version of what it will be for all you listeners is you might get 3 episodes a week. You might get an episode that lasts 7 minutes. We don't necessarily know what's going to happen, but what we know is you're going to hear more of the internal insider conversations, and that's it. Which is why someone like William getting you on is fucking awesome, because it's so hard to get you on. So we're honored. But Tony, what would you say? And then let's just see where the hell this goes.
Yeah, that was a great intro. I don't know why you wanted me to kick it off. You killed it. The only thing I'll add is, you mentioned our passion for making the world of work so much more flexible. You see this as a rising water lifts all boats situation. We know this benefits enterprises because we've been a part of that. We know there's all these great marketplaces out there that people just aren't familiar with or aware of. And that this kind of alternative way of staffing or resourcing your business is something that feels different to a lot of companies, but it's better. And it's the old way hasn't kept up with the way that things have changed. And we see this as an opportunity just to bring this to more folks, hopefully open more minds and make more of these partnerships happen so that more people can experience flexible work lives.
Love it. So, William, can you show off all the crazy cool shit that you have? And also, listeners, just a heads up, you're probably going to hear less of me, because when you do hear from me, there'll be agents in the background building out the Human Cloud platform, and I'll be looking like this and probably swearing. So Tony's going to significantly limit me, I have a feeling. So get ready to hear more, Tony. But William, you've done the craziest cool shit in this industry.
Yeah, I've been fortunate. Man. I think the thing is with your podcast, first of all, we'll start there, is you're evolving the discussion. So it takes about 100 episodes to kind of get your feet kind of settled on kind of what you're trying to achieve, because you're learning. That's what a lot of people don't know. When you podcast, you learn as much as everyone else, because you're going back and forth with a guest or whatever your bit is, and the audience is learning, but you're also learning. So a lot of podcasts get to about 100 plus episodes, and they're like, okay, I've learned that, but now what do I want to learn next? And so you don't don't discredit that, because y'all have learned. Every podcast, every guest, every interaction, you've learned something from them. So not only have you gotten smarter in your ability to ask questions and things like that, but you've moved the audience along with you. And I think that as you go forward with your podcast in whatever form, like trying different things, like Ryan showed me, my co-founder was Work Define, Ryan Leary. He showed me a podcast that was more like a news show. It's two guys, two tech brothers. They're actually brothers, not bros, but two tech brothers, and they just talk about tech. And they get on and they'll have guests and stuff like that. So it's kind of a little bit longer form content, but then they'll also do short form content. Hey, this just happened. Make sure you go over to TechCrunch and look at this article. It's really well written, really explains blah, 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 blah. And so they're experimenting with different type of content. They don't even look at the camera. Like, they've got their computers down and they're looking at stuff on their computer. They're talking with the guests. Like, it's completely different. And so he sent it to me and we talked through it. He's like, we should do something like this with the BARF when we cover news. Like, let's cover it like how news is covered, instead of us talking, to each other, at each other, etc. So I think experimentation for your audience, so you don't get rooted, you don't fall into a rut. You also don't get bored. Podcasters don't talk about this enough, but you get to a certain point, you're like, I think I've had this conversation. I'm pretty sure I've had this exact conversation. I think I've had this conversation 10 times. Like, we don't talk about that, but you gotta switch things up. I've even found that with myself. Like, I have some catchphrases or go-to stories on different things. I'm like, yeah, people have already heard that. I don't need to say that again. So you got to you got to retire some things. Like, okay, all right, I've already done that bit, and whether or not they heard it or not doesn't matter. I've done that bit. I need to move on. So anyhow, Matthew, I think the thing is taking a lot of when you started, how you started, the conversations that you started, and the evolution of what you're doing with Human Cloud. Don't take that for granted. All that learning for the audience and for yourselves as hosts, because you've learned a lot of things along the way. And then now it's experimentation time. Try it, like when in marketing, you do a bunch of A/B testing, right? This is kind of like that, but different. Like, when you have a different host on, the worst hosts historically for me have been one word answer people. Like, listen, I understand, we're looking at domain specific, LLMs and kind of building that out, blah, 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 blah. What are your thoughts about, that, and kind of what's that going to look like in the next year? I think it's really bright.
The worst is the marketing people. I'm not gonna lie.
Sales.
There's been 5 guests that I have turned away, and it was
in
7 and 15 minutes, and I was just like, okay,
dude, you didn't get it
here. This is just, which, if you want that, pay some money and go on to like a Bloomberg,
100%,
like a traditional one, or CNN or whatever. Pay that. So can you get Tony to commit to a news updates, William?
Oh, 100%.
You didn't commit live to it.
Have fun with it. Like, Ron and I when we started the BARF, the bit was breaking news, acquisitions, research, and funding. And he came up with the name, so he's to blame. So the bit was, we didn't show each other our content until we were in Riverside.
Nice.
And so he would come up with stories, or not come up with, he would research stories during the week. I would research during the week. And on Friday, we'd get together. And all I was trying to do for probably the first 20 episodes was make him laugh, like break him. like that was the bit for me. It was like the stories are easy for me to find. That's not a big deal, but I wanted to break them with like pet insurance and just stuff that I know that grates on them. And it's funny to see him like, "Bah!" And he would do something with it. So it was news and it was fun, but really it was just two co-founders trying to mess with each other in front of everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure. Like, I have a playlist on Spotify that has 3,000 songs on it. It is my life. So it's like goes all the way back to like Puff the Magic Dragon, you know, all kinds of music, theme songs to TV shows, to every type of movie. And I have like 8 people that have subscribed to that playlist. And I'm like, it can't make sense to you. It's just the soundtrack to my life. It can't make sense. Cabaret Voltaire. You didn't listen to that. You don't even know what that is. You can't, like, I don't get it. That's kind of what podcasts are, is you're learning, you're doing a bit, especially when you're on it together, and the audience is along with you for the ride. And as long as it's entertainment, to settle some guests down, I go, listen, imagine we're at a Starbucks and we're just so happen to be talking about generative AI. And it's just the people that are listening into our conversation, that's the audience. So a lot of, and y'all get this too, especially with larger companies, they don't want to look bad. Fair. They don't want the ams, the I'm not sure. They don't want all that stuff. So they want questions in advance. I've never sent anyone questions in advance. And if they sent me questions in advance, I just delete them. So it's usually PR people. Like, here's the list of questions that Leslie wants to go through. I'm like, oh, absolutely. Sounds good. Delete. I'm not going to do that because it's a conversation. The last thing you need is me or Ryan, in our case, reading while we're trying to have a conversation. It's you follow the person. Where they go, you go. So if they start talking about something, you're like, oh, shit, that's cool. Ryan and I have a signal to each other, like who's going to ask the next question. So we've worked all that stuff up so we don't talk over each other. But on the occasion that we do, that's how conversations happen. You talk over each other. So what?
So okay, you ready? So I'm gonna make a transition into HR because I have 2 of the biggest fucking nerds in the world. And the reason I'm gonna make this transition is you mentioned, okay, PR people needing to have the script, needing to have the questions.
Yeah.
And I'm not agree more, right?
Just say yes.
Just says now
Just say yes.
Where I'm gonna blame you two though. You two are no different because when I want to go hire someone traditionally, you make me write up a stupid 1 to 3 page job rec with a bunch of bullets that mean nothing. You make me go through a bullshit interview loop. And most likely when I find the person I actually want, you make me wait a week just because of, I don't know, some HR policy.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw something over to both of you that I know I always yell at Tony about is I think like 90% of HR is just such paper pushing crap that I think a lot of technology is saying, yeah, we don't really need that. And a lot of CEOs, like on my side of the fence, are saying, sweet, I don't need that HR department that I really didn't like that much anyways, but like I need it so that I wouldn't get sued like crazy.
Right.
But so now, this is where Tony's like, get off the
Matt, I think you nailed it
shut up
at the very end. Yeah, you nailed the very end where you're like, oh, I still need it so I don't get sued like crazy. Imagine Matt without an HR person in his back pocket.
Got it. Yeah.
That's what keeps this business sustainable. That's why I'm here. We're going to scale this thing. We're going to grow this business. And if I just let Matt loose on anything, there'd be a lot of bigger hurdles to get over. So
I was talking to an HR leader last week, and she was asking me about my background. And I told her, I said, I grew up in grocery business and retail. I worked for Sam Walton, worked at Walmart for 6 years. And I pretty much had sex with every subordinate that worked for me that was a female. And she just like, what? I said, I was young. I didn't know that there were laws. Like, we would work together. We would go out and drink together. We'd, all the other stuff. Like, I didn't know that there was anything wrong with it. No one ever checked me and told me something was wrong with it. And she goes, well, that wouldn't happen now. I said, and it shouldn't. It shouldn't have happened then. I was in the wrong then. I admit it. My fault. My bad. I want to apologize to Sally and whatever. But the thing is you need somebody around you to put those guardrails if for no other reason than compliance. because we are a litigious society and you can sue McDonald's for coffee being hot, you can sue anybody for anything. And so HR, we got to be compliant. Now, what changed my life in HR was a book by the head coach of the Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson, back when they won, which was 30 years ago when they were relevant, is he didn't treat everyone the same. And he was outspoken about it. And so one of the failures of HR is that we treat everyone exactly the same. And so that's a fail, and that's going to become a bigger failure over time with AI, because we're going to have Johnny who can do 40 hours of work in an hour with AI. And we've got Tammy, not picking on women or anything, but Tammy, who still needs the 40 hours to do the 40 hours of work. That's going to create a pay inequity. That's going to create a job description, a title inequity, all kinds of stuff. So we can't treat everyone the exact same. I did a speech on this in a Cayman Islands at a HR conference, and it was about the Bulls. It was B.J. Armstrong and Michael Jordan. If anyone thought for a moment that those guys got the exact same treatment on any level, they're idiots. It's just, and B.J. Armstrong was a great player. No offense to him at all, but like, we have that in our companies. We have those types of people in our companies that are just great. Why are we saddling them with all of this standardized stuff that we do? Treat everybody like number 2 pencils or Twinkies. It's like, no. If you're a Michael Jordan or Michael Irvin or Troy Aikman or something like that, you should be treated differently. And HR has not come to understand that's not out of compliance.
Why is that, guys? Like, why? Because I couldn't agree more, but I don't.
Tony.
I know. Matt,
I was in a technical product where for us, like code is king. So if you suck,
Right,
like,
right.
it's not my fault. Your code says you suck, and no one's buying your stuff. But HR comes in, and yeah, Tony, what were you going to say?
I think, whenever Matt and I are on the same podcast, we spend a third of the podcast me teaching Matt about HR because he's so befuddled. Like he's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't.
This is a true story. So when I took my SPHR and later on the SHRM certification, I had to unlearn HR. I had to go through the process of, because I ran HR as a business owner, which is completely different than working a desk. And so, like, Tony grew up the right way, understanding HR in the right way, in the right context. And I didn't. I had to actually unlearn all of that and learn it again to take the test. So this is what your role is like, okay, I got this guy. Okay, now I have to, I'll just say unfuck, but I got to get him to unlearn these things, these ideas, because some of those reasons that those ideas need to be undone is case law. Like just getting down to like simple stuff like you can't do that. Protected class is a protected class.
Can I give an example?
You can't ask somebody their religion. You just can't.
Can I give an example why everyone needs a Tony? This is such a perfect example and such a like what CEOs are doing right now, and then what HR is going to have to clean up / right? So as part of this podcast, right? When if someone told us 10 years ago you have to have a podcast, what does that mean? You have to have a booth, you have to have equipment, you have to have a producer, whatever it is. Now the reality is all you have to do is push a button. So now my founder brain goes, okay, I can automate like 97% of this. And back to your point, what used to take 40 hours might take an hour, and HR historically treats things ever equally. Now, this is true in marketing, product, every single function. You have idiot founders like me that have figured out how to wrangle Claude in a way that I can get rid of like 98% of people. Now, I'm also going to make sure that I call out that like in tech, we're not exactly the most lovey-feely, even though we acted like it. We're all kind of ruthless because we come down, we're all binary. So poor Tony has to then deal with the fact that he has a co-founder, which is everyone's CEO, who's trying to automate everything. And the reality is, if you listen to me, I would ruin it all because team cohesion and whatever it is, I would just smash. Is that an accurate way to put it, Tony? Because that
I mean, you're getting closer. It just sounds like something that we're doing is rubbing off on you. So I see progress.
Everyone, real quick, I want to talk about the risk that is involved with an independent workforce. No matter where you are, whether it's the US, whether it's Brazil, whether it's the EU, whether it's London, there is risk in how you classify and how you work with individuals. Unfortunately, it's not as easy as just paying someone. The classification, the actual collaboration, the contracts, the payments, everything is intertwined and must be connected in a way that doesn't get you in trouble with the tax authorities, regulatory authorities, and even potentially class action lawsuits. There are numerous examples of this. Just search classification lawsuit and you'll get plenty. Which is why today's sponsor, Greenlight.ai, is the modern EUR, modern compliance solution for the modern workforce. There's 4 things that we want to call out when hiring an independent worker that you need. And that is, you need to onboard, you need to classify, you need to send payments, and you need to manage this global workforce. It's more than just one person, and Greenlight has all of that covered. All right, I want you to head over to greenlight.ai and tell them Human Cloud sent you.
And I'll take it. But I think in general, getting back to your question, there's no doubt HR needs to evolve with the times. There's a lot of what born HR out of, labor organizing and companies trying to avoid being organized. They created their own internal, labor representation to make it so that they could have that conversation within their team instead of outsourcing it to a union. But it's grown so much since then. It should be more strategic. But what you're referring to when you talk about HR, Matt, is kind of the vanilla HR that most people experience in companies. And I just had this conversation last week with an awesome HR leader, and we were both talking about that strategic role that HR can play when the leaders got backbone, when they've got experience, when they have a financial acumen. Yep. Like they can be.
They know the business. They know the product. They know the
business. They're a value added contributor to the strategy, and they partner with the CEO. And we both,
he's not been around those people.
Matt hasn't. Well, I mean, other than the little interaction he's had with me, and most of that, I wasn't even in HR anymore.
That's Matt. That will change you. That'll change you forever.
And the worst is when goes up with a people ops title. Then I get even more scared because I'm like, oh God, there's going to be a workshop and something.
No. Once it's the actual leader. Once you're around, I'm thinking of Amy Mosher at iSolve, Chris Dunn at Marriott, Charlie Judy. These are practitioners that they could roll into product. They could roll into sales. They could roll into marketing or finance. Like they know the business. And oh, by the way, their competency is HR and making sure that it's an innovative approach to HR. They're constantly looking at the evolving nature of HR and saying, okay, what else could we be doing? It's that old Billy Bean phrase. If we weren't doing it this way, how would we do it? So it's rooted in innovation. Once you're around a bunch of people, gals and guys that are like that, you'd be like, oh, so there's this group of people of HR, and then there's all these other people that say that they're in HR, and they might even have an HR title, but that's the lowest common denominator of those people are not the people that you're interacting with.
You know what Tony's like, by the way, is that if I were to describe him, I would say he's more like a CFO. And this is the example I'll use. So what I had to learn in my corporate world was I always thought that CEO, which then was like a product of sales and product, right? But the reality was that CFO actually was the one that was really pulling the strings.
100%.
And when we uncovered the hood, they were like, damn. Like, because most finance people, you're like, oh, here we go. Like, they don't know what's going on. They're just looking at their models. But a good CFO was really live and die in that company. I see the same thing with Tony when he jumps in because he is more mathematical than he will lead on. But he's like mathematics of people to then get to what we need.
Right. Well, we just interviewed Jonathan Bedard, who's the CMO of Bullhorn. And he said, and we were asking about AI type stuff. he said, listen, right now everybody's in love with cost and efficiency and kind of squeezing out all of that stuff. He goes, but that's just the first phase. What we eventually get to is on the other side of it is quality and trust and growth. So do we go in there and fire a bunch of people? No, we don't need to do that. What we need to do is see what's it needs to be automated. Where is that moment of human interaction and influence? And then those people are going to have different jobs and different responsibilities, but what needs to be automated and can be automated should be automated. But right now, the focus by a lot of companies in HR, in marketing, in some of those areas is just like how much cost can we squeeze out, which is great. It's a good phase, but we won't be in that phase for very long. And a lot of the leaders that we like in HR, they're not going to be in that phase for a long time as well. They're going to be like, okay, yeah, got it. If there's some efficiency to be gained. Okay.
Yeah.
Get to the other side.
I like over the last few years, I've followed Ravin Jesuthasan, and he's done a lot of studies around the impact of AI and HR, or at least what they project it to be. And one of the things I love, just to simplify it, is it's going to allow more HR people to do the things that they really believe and want to do in HR, and not the compliance stuff, Matt, that you're referring to, or that most HR people spend 80% of their time doing, but they don't love. They do it because they have to.
100%.
The more that we can automate and take that nonsense and noise away, the more HR people can be. And this is what the HR leader and I were talking about last week. We've always seen HR as the consigliere of the organization. So, Matt, if you've watched Sopranos and you think of Syl, or if you watch The Godfather and you think of, Tom Hagen, that whenever I watch, I love mob movies. Whenever I watch them, like, there's your HR guy, the guy that's at the right side.
They give you the advice and they leave the room. There.
That's it. They give the advice. They tell you this is, and they're reading the whole organization. They're thinking about what are the impacts. If we make this decision, let's play this out, because you have a leader that's got this one track mind, but you need someone there to help them weigh all the consequences, weigh all the impacts, and make the best decision. And you want someone that's thinking about all that other stuff while you're still driving ahead. Bringing this all back together, that's what I think. Things like more effective staffing strategies that get out of just the one way we've always done it, automation, all of those things impact the entire organization, make them more efficient, more effective, but most importantly, enable HR to be that consigliere, partner, CFO, whatever.
Yeah.
I think most HR people want it.
What all these systems is calibration, recalibration. So you're spending time. Okay, you do something. So take the sales part for real quick. Let's say we run a campaign, super successful, and the MQL, SQL is going through the roof, but we only have 3 BDRs. So leads are like milk; they have an expiration date, right? So we've just got 3 people, and they can only handle so many in a day. So how do we recalibrate that? How do we add more BDRs? How do we automate BDR, some of the BDR activities? So it's never kind of a set and walk away on any of these things. It's try something and then understand, okay, I'm going to have to recalibrate and understand how this impacts the organization, not just marketing, not just sales, not just HR. And so when somebody comes to HR, this usually happens in kind of a growth market. Hey, we need to hire 1,000. I remember this happening actually specifically at Wayfair. I was talking to their global head of TA one day, and he just goes, "Dude, I couldn't finish the sentence. It's like I've got to hire 1,000 engineers." And I'm like, okay, all right, well, so what's the plan? Like, what are you thinking? And he goes, I don't know where to start. Like, I've been given the mandate from product and from the CTO. I've got to hire to get that much code, basically. To get that much code shipped, I have to hire 1,000 engineers. I said, what I would do is go find somebody that's done it already. Somebody that's done maybe Intel, or somebody that's worked in a real high growth situation where they had to hire, because they can pull on some of those experiences, and that'll help you get there a little bit faster.
Can I plug, William?
Yeah.
Let me plug. Let me
Sure.
let me
Sure.
If you look on the platform right now, we actually have a platform that literally specializes in HR transformation called Gig Talent, and literally we'll link them in the show notes. But like, and this is the beauty of, for you listeners, you're going to hear a lot more about actual like platform driven data related to this. But so I have a funny question on this. So I hear, all right, HR, you leaders, you're becoming more like CFOs rather than, pencil pushing compliance people. With that said, a question I have for both of you is, why do you never have budget, and how the hell are you going to get it? And I ask because even when it seems like you meet the really, really just the ones that get it, it can feel as if they've been unempowered. And even in that example, William, of I got to go hire 1,000 engineers, where I would say where I've seen Tony shine is Tony will go, why do you need to hire 1,000 engineers?
Right.
Well, I know, deconstruct this, yada, yada, yada. But then when you're someone like me that's not used to HR, you go, why is the HR person telling me how to run my business? Right? So maybe the question is, why the hell don't you have budget, and how are you going to get it in the future? But let's please nail this.
Tony, why don't you go first? I'll come back behind you.
Yeah, I mean, HR does have budget. They have a budget around typically their HRS, their team, people ops, just like you mentioned earlier, Matt. There's so many things they have to spend money on. One, I think the real challenge is HR people hate being sold to. They feel like people are trying to pull the wool over their eyes. So they hate to be in sales meetings. They feel like someone's always telling them that they got a better way, which even if they do, it's hard to hear. The second is, if they need more budget, a lot of HR people struggle to make the ROI argument that most other operators are used to and do all the time.
Right.
HR
Sales can do this.
Like, hey, this is what's good for our people, so we should do it. But you got to put together that broader argument,
business case.
Sometimes you got to make that business case, and you have to sell it internally. They should be able to do it. HR really should be a super influential part of the leadership team. But man, some folks really struggle, and they struggle with that financial acumen to be able to put that together and tell that story that is all about value and impact, and make sure there's metrics around it too.
I added a little spice. Some of it is what came out of the agile movement, where we'll give you a budget, but then you have to prove. You have to constantly kind of build your business case and then come back to the business case, where are we at with the business case, et cetera. And so that budget that was like in government, for the U.S. government, there's what's called it's a hard budget and a soft budget. So the hard budget gets approved by Congress, but there's always soft money. But it's got to be proven. Okay, why do we need this? We asked for this, but why do we need it now, et cetera. Same thing in HR. They've got a really extensive, like if you were to actually just look at the Excel spreadsheet and look at the lines, they've got more lines of budget than anybody else. So they've got a budget. It's new things to be bought. It takes about 18 months to get something new into their budget. Now, that doesn't mean they won't buy. They'll steal from something else in their budget. So it might come out of assessments, or it might come out of staffing. It might come out of, something else, benefits technology. It'll come from somewhere else. So their budget net is the same, but that's how they get new stuff in. They'll pilot it. It worked. The transformation isn't going to be all that hard. Now let me figure out how to pay for it. And if they don't go back to the CFO, which a lot of them don't want to go back to the CFO because they did that in October and they were granted the budget in December for the next year, okay, they'll just steal it from another part of their budget. And no one's the wiser and no one cares, even the CFO.
Which I'm all for that, because we literally, for you listeners, we got a model that'll give you 60% cost savings with, I'd say, 3 to 10x productivity increases. So I'm all for steal a budget. That's staffing firm that's billing you 100% plus margin. We know
that's actually the way to have the conversation. I know this isn't in your budget. I get it. Like we don't have to. Let me tell you where the value is and what you're going to get, and where I think you can kind of mitigate some of your other budget and take from, steal, whatever. From that other area because of these efficiencies, so that you can pay for it the first year or two.
Yeah.
And then we'll start to get a line item. and it will be a line item on your budget going forward. But it's unrealistic, I think, unless it's a small company. It's unrealistic to get a line item on a budget with a new product, and especially in a new category and a new product. It's hard.
And right now,
and right now,
sitting in this climate,
and especially when you're a cost function.
You know, 100%.
It's easier on marketing and sales because you can argue the top line
and revenue. Yeah,
but when you're a cost center, you've got to be making that case, because if you're adding a new line that just looks like a more cost, you've got to beg, borrow, steal, and trade from other line items, just like William said.
Sure.
Or you've got to make a point that this is going to drive productivity or some other balance sheet benefit down the line. So
that actually does help. You've got 100 employees. We're going to make them 10x more efficient. That helps your bottom line. You don't have to go hire another 50 employees to get there. We can get you there with the current employees.
So this is my last stinger question for both of you, okay? Because it's related to this. And it is, why is it a cost center? Why can't it be top line? And let me throw some data at you. If you listen to what Satya said last week, he said that at LinkedIn, they reduced 5 roles into 1. Those 5 roles spanned across marketing, engineering, product. And so for some reason, the rest of the company isn't beholden to this, oh, this is not our function. So, and I'll give you an example. When I was at Microsoft, I don't know what org I was in. I was in the Microsoft 365 org. Was that engineering, products, sales? I don't know. All I knew was I had to get us 20 customers. And then from there, I had to get us a 20% increase in MAU. So did that mean I was in HR or finance? Hell, if I knew this was the budget I had, and I better use those numbers. When I think about HR,
I think we're going to a more of a model like that, by the way.
I think
hope with AI, because I'm not sure we're going to have job titles in the future. So like the people that have kind of rested on their laurels about job recs, titles, title description, competency models, skills models. Yeah, I think all that stuff is already dated now. It will become even more dated over time, where you hire somebody and they just do, and you just kind of keep changing what they do. Hey, we need this. Okay. And if I don't know it, I'll learn it. Or I'll have an agent that will teach me it, and then I'll learn it and I'll go do it for a little while. And then all of a sudden the leader will then point you in a different direction and solve other problems. I had a good friend that was a recruiter at Xbox. It was the same thing for him, where he just worked for Xbox. I mean, he knew he was a recruiter, but there was times when he didn't recruit. He was doing other stuff. So I think that model, that Microsoft model, I think is actually going to be more of what we see with companies because of AI coming in and shifting things.
And I think I think full-time employees have to be held to such a premium that they've got to have the skill sets of being able to delegate, manage programs, maintain a team and culture, but they don't have to be able to do everything, because they're going to be delegating, or they're going to be outsourcing to agents, freelancers, agencies, whatever it might be. You don't want all of that tied up in your headcount, but you want people that can manage that and get that done, and make sure that they've got the metrics and everything to go on and track how well that's going, and go back and reassess and adjust in the future. So I do think I see that happening. I see just, these huge enterprises looking a lot more like startups do now, Matt, like all of us on this call, like we know that we're getting stuff done with an extended team beyond the couple of us that are the founders by just beg, borrowing, and steal what we can. We don't have skills in marketing and finance, and that's not what we studied, but we know how to get it done. And that, I think, is what's going to be really valuable for those few premium full-time talent that are part of a team. And the rest is about your ecosystem.
I kind of feel sorry for people getting degrees now. In a way, I have 3 degrees, so like I've already, but at the time it made sense.
It's still HR.
I do.
To a small liberal arts college in Ohio or Maine. I know the deal. And those 3 things, they keep you emboldened and broad. And what are the other terms you tell me? Yeah.
But the thing is like, okay, kids in college now, what are they going to get out to? What's the market that they're going to get out to? So let me ask a funny question. Who's your biggest competitor? Like, what's right now, if you were to look at competition, what do you think, Matthew, is your biggest competition?
That's such a good question. This is where I'm biased in product. I
As
would
you should be.
I would say the fear of changing, followed by
Status quo. Yep.
fear of
Good.
taking an extra 3 seconds to look at this, followed by, I would say, just having the okay to say you can do this. And the reason I say that, because
Yeah.
technically competitors, like we have a couple, obviously. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
but
Doesn't matter. Don't
the
even look at them.
the route of getting a buyer to actually go from I acknowledge I have this pain into I'm going to take that first step. And we have an extra hard problem because this first step is now only $500 to $5,000, not $500,000. So
Right.
it's even harder budget line because they're like, oh, like, are you
What's
just
the
telling me
value?
cheap?
What's the
Yeah.
yeah? What's the value?
So it's like going to
I can't get a good bottle of scotch for $500. Sorry.
exactly. I'm going to get a $5 car and it's still
Yeah.
going to work. Like, no, I want the $500,000
Sorry.
Mercedes.
So I'll add some depressing news on top of that. So status quo is absolutely a lot of technologies come out of the gate and they're like, it's greenhouse or it's this or it's that. It's like, stop looking at other software companies because you could add up all the software companies, the totality of them, and that compete with you. And that's not your competition. It's what you nailed, status quo. It's them doing something differently tomorrow than they did today. That is, okay, that's a big part of the pie. What's been added to that most recently is last year is transformation is a competitor. And we've never treated transformation as a competitor, but they have projects that they're working on that are transformation projects. They can't take on a new thing, no matter how great it is, no matter how affordable it is. They can't take on another thing. So it's not status quo. They actually love what you're doing, but they can't take on a new thing. Your third competitor, and this is really brand new, is AI lawsuits. It's the Mobley versus Workday, the new one with Eightfold. There's about 6 of them in hiring right now. And why that slows down sales is at one point, legal has to get involved and sign off on a contract. And legal is nervous about anything AI related. And so the risk factors go up. So really, that's why it's so hard to get a brand new client if you don't already know them and you haven't done work with them because you're fighting that status quo. And even if you can get them over the hump of like, okay, yeah, you know what? Cool. Then you've got to get them, okay, if they're doing a bunch of transformation, now it's a timing thing. When do we slot into, your greater schedule? And then let's say we get that done. Now we got to go through legal. And this is really with the most recent hiring AI lawsuits, which I think is about 6. And we talked yesterday with a bunch of AI experts, and they were thinking that it's going to be more like 100 by the end of the year. And so think of all the lawyers and how conservative and how much that their risk tolerance is. We want to make sure that our exposure is low. That's going to slow things down. So we have to think about that and already kind of have answers for that.
Got a solution for that, Tony? I know we got a solution for that. Listen, Tony, you this is where I'm going to protect you. You have to go pick your daughter up. So you, my friend, give us the final send off. What can our listeners expect? William, thank you so much for hopping on.
100%.
We are so honored to be in Work to Find. You have no idea how pumped we are.
Oh, it's awesome.
Tony, last word over to you. And listeners, make sure you turn the video on because Tony's actually wearing a sweatshirt, not some weird. Yeah.
I know Matt's totally converted me. I started out wearing button-ups. Now I'm wearing t-shirts and sweatshirts. I'm starting to feel this new vibe. I think one, just like Matt said, William, we're so glad to be a part of Work to Find. So glad that you brought us into this family because we really it's super exciting. And we're looking at all the other podcasts; they're amazing. What our listeners can expect is we're going to keep pushing for what can you do. How do you embrace, engage, and just get started in this space? And we're going to keep introducing our audience to the founders and the businesses and the business leaders that are doing this now, making it work, and we'll share their success stories to make this even more real. And then, of course, we'll point you straight to the Human Cloud platform or app.humancloud.com, where you can actually mess around, learn more, and then finally get straight to work.
What a marketing spiel. William, thank you, my friend.
Sure.
See you on the non-stop. When I click stop, we'll see you on that side. Listeners, we'll talk to you soon.
Got it.